Hello and welcome to another video tutorial on how to use C++. Today we're going to talk about classes and objects derived from classes. To do that, I already created a new project called classes and added a main CPP and added some code in here. So just include and all this. So with classes, we can realize the object-oriented approach in C++. So classes basically are just an enhancement of our self-defined data types like a struct. So and with these structs, we created a point, if you may remember, like we added variables called x and y. And then within the main function, we could create such a point by calling the data type point, setting a name like p1, and then we could assign values to the x and y elements. So just set coordinates like p1 point operator x equals 4, and the same for the y coordinate. And then we could set the output to say cout, the x coordinate, and with a space the y coordinate, end line, and if we run this, then we could see the coordinates in the console. Okay, so classes are just like structures, but instead of struct we just put in class, and then we have the class point with so-called member variables, and the code in the main function doesn't need to be changed to have the same output. So we just create a new point with the data type or class point, and then all this can be used again to run this. So classes are just like a blueprint for an object, but if we try to run this, then we can also already see it here that we don't have access to the member variables x and y. So this would cause an error if we try to run it. And this is because of the enclosure within classes. With that, we have the possibility to set access rights on the member variables. So this is member variables, and if we try to run it, then we can see we have an error that says no access on the member variables, just like we said before. So in classes, we have to set the access rights with keywords like private and public. And if we don't say anything, this means private in general. So to give access, we introduce the keyword public and put it in front of the member variables. Just say public colon. And now we can already see that in the main there are no red lines anymore that say that the access is denied. Okay, and if we run this, we can also see that it works. So we can put a comment here that public is then the member variables are visible for other parts of the program. And the opposite one would be private. So this makes the member variable invisible for other programs. So there's no access, and we can see that now we made y private, so you can see the red line again here that says that the access is denied. Okay, I'm gonna delete this one for now. We can talk about this later when we go deeper into the topic of enclosures. Okay, so now we've got a rough idea what a class is, like a blueprint to form an object like P1 now. Okay, so, but for now, I'm also gonna delete the stuff we've put into here. So get this out and also the class, because we want to create a new class. This new class should be named circle, and important again here is the semicolon at the end, just like in the struct. Okay, what we want to make public here is our member variables x and y, integers. These should be the center of our circle. Okay, what else is characteristic for a circle? We have a radius that we can set, so double radius. And also additionally to our member variables, which set the attributes of a class, we can define member functions. And also this is not new, we just can say that we have a return value double, and the function is named circumference. And the same can be done for another function that we name area. And now we can try to fill these functions, but because later we want to outsource our functions into header files and according CPP files, we can now just use the name of the class, circle, and the scope operator to set the access rights. So we just put it in front of the function name, like this. And then we can give return values for these functions. So for the circumference, we use return value is 2 times pi, so 2 times 3.14159 times r. And the r is just this r, the radius. And the same for function area, but this time the return value is pi times r times r. Okay, these functions are all public as well. And now we want to go to the main and create a new circle. To do that, we just say our class circle and a name for it, let's say K1. And we set the radius, so K1 point operator R, to 1. So we build a unit circle. And next we can just ask for the circumference and the area. So to do that, we just say the output should be cout circumference, and then call the function K1 circumference, end line, and we do the same thing for the area. So instead of circumference, we just fill in area here and in the text as well. Then if we run this, first there's an error, we don't need semicolons at this position. Okay, run again, and then we can see that for unit circle, the circumference is 2 pi and the area is pi. Now what I want to show you next is how to outsource our class circle, this one. For that we need a new header file. So we just add a new element here, and the header file's name should be the same as the class or circle. Add, and we can simultaneously just add the CPP file for that, which we of course also name circle. And for the header file, we can just copy the stuff from the main file, what we said here for the class. We just take this and paste it into here. And for better understanding, I'm just typing in a comment here. So this header file circle.h has following declarations, and then within the class here, we can make it more compact. So these are the integers x and y. And of course, in the header file, we don't need the actual function, so no return values required in here. And that's basically it for our header file. So now we can go to our CPP file, and this whole part we can just cut and then paste to circle.cpp. So paste it here, and as before, we can first add a comment that says in which file we are, so circle.cpp, and what can be found here is the implementations for all our functions. Okay, so then first we have to include the header file, of course, so include circle.h, and then this part we don't need anymore because this is already set in the header. So we can also delete the bracket there. And let's make this a little clearer. So the functions we can just write into one line, just like this. And the same for the area function. And then save it. And then we can go back to our main file. And here we first, of course, have to include our header file again. So we say include, and then in quotation marks, circle.h. And just for better understanding, this part right here is called preprocessor directive. This means that when compiling, the compiler says that everything that's inside of the circle.h, the header file, should be written at this position. So just to put all of that stuff here, and then it can just move on. Okay, if we try to run this now, we can see that it works also with the outsourcing that we did with our class. So this just works fine. Okay, in the next tutorial, we're also gonna look at classes and objects. But for today, we've learned how to generate a class and create objects in them. And also we saw how to outsource code to other files like header and another CPP file. And we got a rough idea on what enclosure means using the keywords private and public. And there's also a third keyword, which is called protected, which we are going to look at in the next tutorial when we're slowly moving on to the topic of inheritance. But that's it for today, and I want to thank you for your attention.